Hello. Just gotta get a few little things going here and then we'll get rolling. Alright. Okay everyone, welcome back to our work on Deceiver. Where we last left off, I had started UV mapping the handle, and I think I had gotten everything done up to about here. That's what it looks like. I need to have that set so I can see what's going on. Bring up the text tools. Let's take a looky-loo here. Oh, bugger. Damn it. Okay, well, here's our first, first problem. Just pretty much a word of advice if anyone ever goes into this sort of thing. I can't speak for future versions of 3ds Max, but if you save with the, unwrap UV thing selected, and you have it open like this, you save and you quit, or whatever, it'll screw the UVs up, so it compresses it into a line, like this. So we're gonna have to redo that, because thanks, Obama. Alright. Oh, forgot. No? Come on. There. Alright. Let's just get this all fixed up. Ding. Alright. Just throw a little relax on it. And select away from that. We're gonna check the other ones to make sure that they didn't get that screw up too. Doesn't look like that one's fine. That one's fine. Let's check this guy. Okay, that's all good. Last thing I want is to have, not check all these things and then find out later after I've exported the model that one of the UVs got compressed into a line, so the texture's all stretched and crap. Alright, so besides that little hiccup, everything's pretty much alright, so now we can move on to the haft here, or, well, the haft and the whole head. Well, we should be okay. So, apply the checker material so we can see about that sort of thing. So, let's untick normalize. And, alright. This kind of takes up a little bit of real estate on the screen, so if this gets in the way, I'm sorry. It's not much I can really do about that, because I have to be able to see what's going on over here. So, without further ado, let's get started on that flat bit. Make sure there ain't nothing weird there. Alright. I'm just gonna do those flat sections first. Boop, 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 boop. Alright, so now I can start on these side bits, which conveniently get selected all as one unit. So I don't have to select them individually. Now we want to select this interior part. Oh dear lord, why? Why are you stretchy? Why are you a stretchy mess? Oh, you know what? That's why. Alright, here's a nice tip. If something like that happens, you know, you saw how that thing got all weird and stretchy when it shouldn't have been. It should have been pretty much proportional to that. The thing is that, like, you know, old transforms or whatever get stuck into place. You know, they get stuck. They get stuck. It's kind of expecting things to be a little different. So, if you reset the X form, which going over into utilities, reset X form, and reset selected, and then collapse that, that'll zero the transforms on the object. So, once we go back into UV mapping, UV unwrap modifier, select this, we relax this, it should square out, and it does. Good. Very good. So now we can just put that into alignment, move that over. So now we've got the haft itself now. Alright. So we're going to select those two parts. And, oh, right. Untick normalize again. So let's see, where does this go? Up to about there. Now we want to have this on there too. So let's make sure that's not including anything weird. What's with this? What is with this? Is there some weird setting on? Why does it have this weird speckling? I don't know. As long as the program doesn't crash on me or whatever, then I think it's fine. Oh, you know what? Is that? No. That's weird. Oh, you know, it might be an artifact of this checkering. That's checker texture. We'll go with that. Okay. Alright. So, now let's flip around to the underside here and do much the same. Whoops. There we go. Select those tiny boys. Alright. And iron. There. Let's select edge. Get that middle edge loop and boop. Hit a line so that it's nice and straight. Oh, tarts. Didn't select these parts. Gotta watch that. Okay, now let's do that again. Relax. And align. There we go. We'll do another little bit of relaxing after that. Of course, with the presence of this, it's kind of gotten this all bent up, which is not exactly ideal. But, you know, the thing is that the biggest rule of thumb, something I have to fight on my own, like uh, obsession over perfection, such as it is. Oh, well, that probably would contribute if it was missing a face. Come here, you sneaky faces. That might help keep it from being too bendy. But as I was saying, okay, yeah, that's fine. If it's just slightly kind of bendy, that's not too big a deal, because the main thing that you're main thing you're considering is uh the main thing you're trying to consider. Well, actually, the biggest rule of thumb when it comes to modeling weapons is, would the average user notice? And so, like, you've got some, like, slight distortion somewhere that's not going to be if you feel like the average user wouldn't notice it, then it's fine. And I don't think this is going to contribute very much distortion at all, so we don't need to worry about it. So now the challenge begins with UV mapping this part. Fortunately, some of it's simple, the rest of it's going to be a little tricky. Especially like here where this part joins into there, but we'll work our way towards that. We'll start with the easy parts first, which will be the axe face here. Now, I want the top and bottom here to be symmetrical. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to iron it, I'm not going to relax it. So once I select the bottom here, iron that, and then over here to mirror, I'm down to this one, which is mirror vertically. Click that, and that should overlay almost perfectly on the other face. Ow! Darn it. Should have known that was going to be a bad idea. Okay. We will not relax it. We'll just leave it as it is. It's not a completely perfect overlay, but for when it comes down to texturing, it's close enough that it won't look all that weird. So now let's do this side. Making sure there ain't any rogue faces. Oh, like that, for example. Iron. Now the question I'm having is, you know what? Yeah. Since the pattern, I believe, is going to be the same for all the axe faces, we are gonna want to basically do the same thing. Just overlay, just get all these UVs into the same space. So let's go ahead and iron that. And wish we hadn't. That's a mess. Why'd that happen? Oh, that's probably why. Okay, there we go. So let's again mirror vertically. And we'll just move those away. When it comes down to it, once I get everything packed together, because right now we're just getting the coordinates sorted out. Once everything's been broken up into these shells, then we're gonna come back with everything fused together and condense them down into this itty bitty square right there. Because that's where the UVs need to be ultimately. Just a little. Alright, okay. So now, the alternative thing I could do is just like, yeah, actually, you know what? Coming to think of it, I should do that. Of course, yeah. Because the thing that's going to save me time and headaches is if I go ahead and just take this sucker, cut it in half like so. Let's get these straggler faces here. Let's get you out of the way too, because you're in the way. Yeah, we're gonna want to start from there. This means I'm gonna have to fix the smoothing groups on the axe faces once we do this. Okay, there's a little bit of rogue faces there we don't want. So now we've cut that in half. So now what that means is, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to UV map this part here, and then use the symmetry modifier. And what that will do is, I won't have to UV map the underside at all. Won't have to fuss around with that. So, now let's go back into here with our UV mapping, a UV unwrap. And let's just, let's see, yeah. Uncheck normalize. You gotta, with normalize, the reason I'm unticking the normalize map here is because with normalize, it will, when you iron a UV, it'll condense it into here, into this square. But we want them to be all out here. Because then, oh shoot, I accidentally hit pack, not a line. Stray fingers. So if we, what was I doing? I completely lost my train of thought there. Fabulous. Alright, it'll come back to me, hopefully. Never know, never know. So, okay. Considering the structure of this, I'm gonna select all this crap. Except for you. We don't want you. Where's those? No, I was talking about the normalizing, yeah. This normalized map, like I said, it condenses the maps down into, well, the shells down into that little square there. But we want things to come out like this so we can have, we'll still have to, at the end of the day, put things into that square, but I think it's better doing it like this because then you can control things more individually instead of having to fuss things around a bit. So now let's see, let's get all this selected. Alright, let's iron that. Is there? Yeah, of course. So always one face that manages to elude the cursor. So let's align that. So that's looking pretty swanky. So we've got that part. Now I'm gonna get this part over here, like that. Now for these, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stitch them to the central part. So I'm gonna select that edge, hit loop, and deselect the edge loops we don't want, because we just want that top, want this top line there. Hit stitch, element, and then relax. There we go, looks nice. And we do it to the other side. Loop, deselect these parts, stitch, and relax. There we go. So that's in order. Now we want to get these parts here, these little faces there. Just put them like that. Those we could probably stitch to here as well. The main reason why I'm stitching these on is that means less clutter on the UV map. There we go. So now we just need to do these ones here. Just really want to kind of minimize the amount of loose shells, because that just means more crap you have to fuss with when you get down to texturing. There we go. Nice. So we're probably going to have a bit of a seam there unless we... I'll try that and see what happens, but don't know if I really want... Oh, whoops. Gotta get those stitched up there. There we go. So now we've connected that. So that's looking okay. So now what we're going to want to do, though, is... See, now this... We don't want to have it in full like this, because the problem is, if we have it like this, we have to make it smaller. Since we are going to be scaling everything down to fit into that box down there, if we have it like this, then it's going to be smaller in the texture, and that means there won't be as much detail in the texture. So what I want to do is I'm going to select this bottom half, as I've already done while I was talking. Then tools and break. And what that allows me to do is separate this into two halves. So then the trick will come with sort of getting things lined up enough so that the seam won't be as noticeable. It would be noticeable with scrutiny, but probably only the trained eye would really notice it. In general gameplay probably wouldn't be all that noticeable unless like something was very prominent, like there's like a sticker or something here. In a case like that, we'd have to line things up so in order to at least make the seam look less obvious. So now we've got the faces all squared off and all that. So now we need to get this part here. Okay, just like that. Stitch that on. Doink. Relax. Switch back to this. Okay. Iron that. Then, yeah, that's fine. The other thing too is that with normalizing enabled, if I was doing this whole thing, all those sections would be different sizes. That's another reason why we want to do this unticking the normalize thing, because that way with when you do these in sections, they'll be at least close to the same size. They weren't exact, there was a slight difference, but that's what the relax the relax button is for. Now here, since this is a hard edge, I'm not gonna stitch this part that I've selected here to this that I've just UV'd, because when I'm doing the textures, I usually put like an edge highlighting on hard edges, and so there will be a highlighting here, and there will be a highlighting on this UV face as well. So they'll kind of blend together on the final texture. So it won't be a very visible seam. That's the main thing you gotta do with UV mapping is either hide the seam or disguise it as best you can. Because there's really no way you can avoid seams exactly. It's just a fact of life when it comes to UV mapping a 3D object. Seams are gonna exist, and you gotta hide them. If we were doing something more complex here, like a gun, then the seams would be hidden in areas where you wouldn't see them at all in normal gameplay, like inside the ejection port or something like that. But that would be something to demonstrate more if whenever I do a gun for Fallout 4. Don't know when that'll happen, but whenever it does, that's when things will get more advanced. So now that we've gotten this taken care of, I'm gonna scooch this over. And do about the same here on this side. We've got 4 of these we have to do. I've gotten this bottom one, got this one here, and then we've got these 2 on this side. But once we do all those, that'll be the end of the axe part. So let's iron that. Ding, doo, 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 doo. Iron that. Stitch it. Okay. Do about the same here. Ugh, don't do that. Fortunately, relax will straighten that out, instead of making it look like a gummy worm. Okay, relaxation. So that takes care of that up to that edge. So now we've got to select all this. Iron. Da, 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 da. Come around to there. Alright. Then stitch that onto that. Relax. Then we want to get this part. Iron, edge, stitch. Then relax all that. Alright, so that's that part done now. Now let's go over to this side. Try to scooch this over a bit. Alright. So once again, same old, same old. Just gotta swing it around. Oh, well, let's bring this around a bit. Okay, right. Stitchy stitch. Redo that. Whoops. Don't want select element selected. Activated. Now we do. There we go. Okay. Alright. So bring that up there. Around over to here. Okay, good. I did not accidentally hit split. It's really easy to accidentally hit the wrong thing. Just mouse strays a little bit in the wrong direction, and you hit the wrong button. Okay, and we'll just tack that onto the end of that. Relax that. Move these out of the way so I can put these down together with its friends. Move those over. Now we come down to the bottom part here. Okay. Ah, darn. There we go. Da-da-da-da. Okay, yep, iron that. Then keeping on with that. There we go. So now we just want to stitch this sucker together, stitch it on that, select everything and relax all that, get about as even as we can. Okay, so now we can come around to this. Iron, put that up over there so we can see it. Then let's bring this up and around there. Go. Let's stitch that. Select this. Okay, good. At the end there. Alright. Let's make sure there's nothing rogue down there. Good. So now we've UV mapped the whole haft and the head. So now I'm going to collapse the UVs. Get the symmetry modifier in. Symmetry. Z-axis. Gonna move into this mode. Just make sure that everything is kosher. Okay, yep, looks like it. So, now, let's come back up to here and collapse. Yeah. So, that should do that. So now we just need to select the angle, we'll go by 20 degrees here. Try 15. Okay, I guess not. Duh. Alright. So, select all that. Make sure there's no rogue faces, because we just want to... Oops. We only want to change the smoothing groups on one side. Don't want to have... don't want to have that. So have both selected, so we have problems. Okay. Come on, why are you smoothing all around like that? Dang it. Oh, pfft. There's just these little stragglers right there. Hiding from me. Okay, I think that's good. It's a little hard to tell with the checker in place, but I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna go in the opposite angle. There we go. Select each face here. Binga banga bonga binga binga. Yep, there we go. That's already set to 4, so I'm gonna set it to 5 and hope that there ain't no weirdness. Nope, looking good there. Alright. So, let's go into edit UV here. Now I could, if I wanted to, which I might, is... Yeah, there we go. Got the bottom part. So now I'm going to mirror it vertically. That, and then I'm going to stitch it along the center. So the main thing is I don't want the texture to be reflected on this part. I want it to look unreflected. Just a whole homogeneous thing. Hence, with that in mind, I'm going to try and select those bottom parts. Takes a little bit of clicking here and there to get it. Flip it. I just need to stick. Actually, you know what? Well, forgot to untick that. It might be simpler to just select and loop and... Okay, never mind. We do need to do that. It didn't do what I was expecting it would. It did not mirror it. So that's the bottom. Set that to reflect, loop, and stitch. Okay, well, let's move those up to there. That up. Then, cool. Flip. Yeah. There we go. Move over you there. Bring you up. You're next. Let's see, there you are. Flip. Move that up so we don't select the wrong edge. Stitch. Relax. Put that up. Okay, that's still the top. We want the bottom, please. There's the bottom. Flip. Select that loop. Stitch. Come on. Okay. So that's not the right part. Come on, give me the bottom one. There it is. Alright. So now we can loop stitch again. Okay, cool. First try. Bring it down. Loop and stitch. There we go. And just give it a little bit of relaxing. Give them all a bit of a relax. Wait for the program to catch up. Okay. And we'll just move those over. This is that inner part. That's the top, so I'm going to pull that away. I want this to be about the same too. I want this to be a whole unit. There. And just give that a relax. And it doesn't really matter which one of these we do, so we can just pull that away. What's this? Oh, okay, that's why. Think. Something's a little weird here. Just gonna, dang it, freaking normalizing. There we go. Just gonna redo these. There we go. That's looking fine now. Okay, so that's it for the axe part. So now let's save. Now come up here. Just want to survey this. Yeah, I think that's alright. So now what I want to do, check to make sure. Okay, good. Just want to make sure there's none of those extraneous faces in there, but I think I got rid of them already. So first things first. Oh, it's not that. First things first is to select this, do inset, and then collapse it, because we want to have edges there, not no edges. So now we can select this and okay, well yeah, we'll select that whole face, bring that out. Okay, and we'll untick planar angle so we can get these. come to think of it. Oh, whoops. That happened. Alright. Well, it just makes things a little simpler for me. Let's just find the right perspective here. There we go. So I want to just deselect that. Iron that. So we've got the flat face and the beveled part as one unit. Find that. So then we can take this and whoops. Now in this case, I'm going to do this top and bottom instead of side and side because this is a perfect opportunity to show a circumstance where you can just hide a seam. Since these parts here are sunk into the model like this, the seam won't at all be visible. So I can stitch it along. I can stitch it like on either side here, so that it won't matter since it's all sunk in. But I'm gonna stitch on even in a case like this, you want to stitch on the side that'll be facing the camera. So since this is Skyrim, the axis is gonna be kind of like about this. So this backside here, we want to stitch. So that's the right loop. So before we even do that stitching, we want to UV map this part. There we go. Alright, now that's already selected, so we can just hit that. And we're good. There we go. So that's good. So now let's select this, save while we're at it. I'm gonna do a reset X-form on this. I forgot to do it with the other ones, but it didn't really matter. Now then, considering this thing's structure, I could probably just get away with forgetting to turn off normalizing again. Hurdy-dur. Just align that. Do a little bit of relaxing. Whoops. There we go. Alright, relax. Okay. Gonna collapse that. Then I'm gonna select these parts here, delete them, and flip them symmetry on the Z-axis. There we go. This is a perfect case where doing some symmetry with the UVs is fine and dandy, because it's got a hard edge and all that, so it'll be good. So I'm just going to collapse that. Then change the smoothing groups here. Change that one to 4. What's this one set to? That's 2. Let me set that to 5. Alright. So, now that we've gotten all that squared away, everything's been UV mapped. The whole thing is now has everything broken into shells. So now what we need to do, I'm going to select the haft here, take a quick drink. Now what we need to do is get all the UVs packed down into a single unit sort of deal. So I just need to attach every little piece here. Spike and that bit. There we go. So it's now a single homogeneous unit. Edit UVs. Tick normalize. And so now this is the Tetris mess. This is all the UVs that we just did. All blarked together. You want to make sure that you catch all these UVs before you scale them down. Because if I had more than one case where I've scaled things down, and there was some rogue UV hiding out somewhere, so things did not get very happy, and I had to fix it in NifScope. So, now we've got things about to the scale we want, and now begins the Tetris game. This is where we have to fit all of this into this square. So the rule of thumb for this thing, for this circumstance, is the most important parts you want to keep fairly large. So like the axe head here is going to be fairly large. The handle, reasonably so. And the shaft and all that are significant parts as well, so they need to be of reasonable size. Whoops, I just grabbed that by accident. But like this part here that's going to be inside, no, this is like, it's all the way tucked up away. Actually, no, that's not the piece. This can stand to be a little bigger, since that's the top part of the handguard. Where is that piece? There it is. Now this here, this is right up in here. That's really not going to be terribly visible in normal gameplay. So that can stand to be fairly small. And a lot of detail is going to be occluded by the ambient occlusion map when we get around to baking those. Alright, so got the handle. Now where are the handle bits for? There's these parts. Let's move those over into there. Okay, that's that. That's what. Ah! That's part of the pommel. That's that part. Something snuck in there. Let's move you out of here. This can be a little bigger. About equal size with its top part. Another thing too is if you can, is to keep parts that are like you want to keep parts that are part of the same thing close together, like these parts which are down here, I'd want to keep them together with this. It's just like a matter of it's just an organizational thing. Makes things a little easier when you're texturing, because I mean I bake a color block map, which is very helpful, but a lot of the times parts that are part of the same thing are different colors. So it's a good rule of thumb to keep, at least try to keep those things together, so that there's no so it's at least makes things a little simpler for you to find where things are. So I'm going to move this up to here. This is that. It's part of the pommel, so this is where the pommel stuff lives. That's the end of the pommel. What's this? Okay, that's that part, so I'm gonna bring that down here with those guys. This is part of the pommel again. So I'm gonna take all this and move it up, and move that down to there. This is those parts, so we'll put those there. And this is all those parts of the axe head. So I'm going to make these a little bigger than what they currently are. Just rotate them around so they're vertical. Get this out of the way. Then I'm going to kind of block things together here. Just trying to keep like with like so that it's at least a little bit less confusing. Okay. So that's all squared up. So now let's bring this over to here, and it's fellow. Alright. So I'm going to scale this up a little more. Just want to use as much real estate as I can. There's going to be negative space regardless, because there's not a whole lot going on in this thing, so it's not going to be totally perfect, but I've got this top cap here. Just going to scale up a little bit, move up into here. Tuck that right there, and I'm going to bring this down under there. Go. Perfect. What's this part? This is that inner part thing. So I'm just gonna keep it. Actually, I'm gonna put it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put it right about here. Again, bigging it a bit. And that's part of the pommel, so we'll put it over with the pommel stuff. Oh, I never stitched that. Alright then, well, if we can do that right now. Let's see here, let's find stitch that up. Okay, yeah, we have to select that, loop it in a line. Are you not even, I don't know why you're not working towards alignment. Maybe you're already technically aligned. Or maybe you just needed a little bit, oh that's right. Yeah, you only have to, you need to just select one edge section. If you select the whole thing, it's not going to like you. So let's bring that around with the pommel. Just kind of squish these boys together. And a good way of saving space is it's a lot more useful when it comes to these guys can. I'm actually probably gonna do is I'm gonna switch these around so that the flat bits go over close to the handle. Spread out a bit. Yeah, but a good rule of saving space, rule of thumb for saving space on UVs. It doesn't really apply to this. As a matter of fact, this is pretty much, that's it. We're done with UV map, with getting the UVs in place. So, but we could probably get away with scaling some of this up a bit, especially the pommel. But when you've got something more complicated, you can save space with the circular things by just shoving them into spaces like this. That's perfectly viable. You're not going to get occluded textures or anything like that because this is the part that matters. This part right here with all this whole thing right there. Not the inside, it's a donut. Only the outside part matters. So anything in here is perfectly fine. It's basically its own little, it's just its own space. So you can put smaller circular UVs into there, or even like angular things. So long as it's small enough and it's small enough to fit, it'll work. So we just need to do some final adjusting here, just getting things in some good order. Scale a few things up just a touch. And seeing if there's any better place to put this. Ah, no, I didn't want to select the axe head. Probably put these all down here, but no, I'm violating the rule I was talking about with keeping things close. I mean, if there's space to do it, do it. But if there's not any space, then you just kind of have to put things where you can. But I'm actually going to rearrange things a little bit here and see if I can move these down pommel stuff down here. Kind of give it its own place so that we can just move these up into here. Scale up a little bit. Give us some leeway to scale the axe head up more. That down a little bit so it's not bumping into things. This is part of the... This is part of that. Part of the pommel. So... Oh shoot. The problem with the align thing is that it turns off that angle rotation. Okay, let's scooch that over so we have a bit of space. Don't want it to go outside the edge line there. With this big thick line, we don't want any of the UVs going outside of that. Okay, I think that's good. Whoops. So I think we should maybe be able to... Can we? No. Can't fudge it into there, but we might be able to fudge this into here. There we go. Alright. I think we can call that good. Weapons like this is really simple, so... It's not as big of a Tetris game as some of the other things. But there's still a bit of I still do a bit of fine tuning regardless. Just to make sure things have enough space in between and all that. So it's nice and reasonably tidy. So with that done, we can collapse the UV modifier. Whoop. Save. So that's the fully UV map Deceiver axe. Now that we've done that, we have to get in and make the base maps. So bring up the text tools again, and there's this little guy here, render texture map floater. And it's got this little clipboard with a question mark by it with text map below it. Just click that. The first thing I always do is the UV layout. This is basically a bitmap. It's a rendered map of the UVs. Yeah. No, it's underscore. Yeah, Deceiver UV. And that will help when we get into texturing for just seeing where the general UVs are so we're not guessing. So that way we can keep things accurate. The next thing is the blockout or color map. And what this does is it renders every individual piece on the... Every piece that's not like a unit. It renders it in a different color. So this will be a different color, this will be a different color, ding 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 ding. So that's that map. And now the final map is a little bit more involved, the ambient occlusion map. So to do that, what we want to do is... Right, yeah. Up to rendering, render setup, come down, assign render, change it to mental ray. Okay. Then you hit 0 on the keyboard, and that brings up the render to textured dialog. Once it loads up, there we go. Oh, we don't have anything selected. Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? So now you want to set the padding here to a reasonably high number. I usually set it to 12 because the thing is if you have like low padding, then some of you that play Skyrim and use mods, what you might notice, especially in cases, because a lot of weapon mods do what I did with the handle and break the blade, for example, into 2 halves. And if the padding's too low, what that ends up doing is that there's no there's no bleed over, and what that results in is a dark line at certain when you're far enough away. The textures, I think, due to mip mapping or whatever, they don't have enough margin of error. So I'm gonna do 16. I usually do 12, but 16 is a pretty reasonable scale. But without enough padding, it'll create a dark line right there. Especially like if you do the normal maps, which I'll be showing you later when I start to texture this thing. The dark line thing is a very kind of immersion breaking thing, because you go back a little ways and then you see this, like someone took a Sharpie marker across the middle of the thing. So set the padding to 16. Now down here to output, we hit add, and at the very bottom, ambient occlusion MR, and that will give us our ambient occlusion map. Now I always set the element background to black and unset it. Actually, for this I'm going to change it and keep it at diffuse color just to show you what it looks like. So now I'm going to do Deceiver AO, not AI. It doesn't really matter what you do with this. I have it at 24 and compressed, but it should do fine anyway. And I always do 2K, 2048 by 2048. I personally feel like 4K for weapons is a little bit overdoing it. It's okay for like armor, because armor is like you generally like one whole big thing. It's not like in Oblivion where it's like pants and boots and the cuirass are separate. Since in Skyrim it's just like whole suit of armor including pants, and then you got the boots, gloves, and helmet. And so the whole armor is usually like a whole single texture. So 4K is okay for that, but like for weapons, it's just a little bit overdoing it, I think. Too much for your VRAM. So now we've got the AO set, and then we've got the size set. So now I'm going to change the samples to 128. And I usually go in squared increments. It starts 16 and double that over 16, 32, 64, 128. But 128 is decent enough, because the main thing we want to avoid here is too much noise in the ambient occlusion map. I might actually bake it just for funsies. Well, I'll show you. I'll bake it at 32 just to show you guys why we want to have it at a higher sample setting. The higher sample setting, it'll take a little bit longer to render, but it's a better net result. So we'll have it at 32 samples first, and we'll just render this out. And since I've got it set to the diffuse, it'll automatically apply it to the model. And we should be able to see how it looks from there, and I can show you like what I'm talking about. And so it's just finished, and it's applied it to the model. So we can turn that off, and here's a good example of what I'm talking about here. So I get the camera to cooperate. You can see the stippling here, right here on the half there. That's what we're trying to avoid, or at least trying to reduce. We can't like, if we go too high, the higher you go on the samples, the smoother it gets. But 128 is a pretty generally good result for that sort of thing. And this kind of noise is really kind of unnecessary because of the textures. It kind of would ruin how the textures look. So, but you can kind of see how what the ambient occlusion map here is doing. It's putting shadows in where the light would reasonably be casting such shadows. So you can see, like, you know, it's kind of grayish there, especially dark right here. So let's go back. Whoops, not to that. And let's change this to 128. And we'll re-render that. We'll just overwrite what we just made. Might be able to hear my computer sounding like a jet taking off when it's doing this. This is going to take a bit longer than the 32 samples did, but since there's not much for it to go through, it shouldn't take super long. A little over halfway there. I just realized that doesn't look like it's actually picking up the windows I'm looking at. But at least I spoke about the render to texture thing and all that, so let's at least see if I can fix that so you guys can see this. Well, okay, that's great. So now you guys can always just see that. Fantastic. A+. Beautiful. I don't know how I can... I think the only thing I could do here is, let me see here. I should be able to change, oh. Okay. Alright. That's probably gonna be what I'm gonna have to do here. So, let's see. That's what we want. Alright. Okay, so now you guys should be able to see what I'm looking at here with all this gobbledygook. You can see what's going on down here too, but I mean, as long as you guys can see what I'm doing with these two windows, so I can at least show you guys more what I was looking at here with the render texture settings and all that, with the padding and all that jazz. So, and also the preview window for the bake. So, but we can close that now and save. So now, coming back into here, you can see it doesn't update the texture when you rebake a map. So, but let me see here. I'm just gonna reapply that. So we've got our slate gray again. So now that we've gotten the maps all baked and everything, now begins the preparation for exporting it into a NIF. So what I need to do is I need to get a reference model. So I always import an existing model from Skyrim to serve as a scale reference. So let's see here. No, Steam. Steam apps, common. Where is Skyrim? Here it is. Data. Meshes, weapons. Actually, you know what? Well, no. We'll bring in the Steel War Axe. Here it is. Open. Change that to Skyrim, not like it matters, but. Alright. So there's our reference image, and you can see how the size disparity here. If I exported this now, this would be ridiculously oversized. I mean, it would be like on Giant Club levels. Well, I think even beyond that. I don't even know how big this would be in game. It would be ridiculous looking. So we don't want that. We don't want it to look like something that belongs to something much bigger. So I'm just going to take all that, scale her down. Let's get to top view here. Grid. Bring her down to about the size we want. Now, this is obviously a lot longer than the vanilla War Axe. So it's not gonna be exactly here. So we just want to get the handle at least about where the hand is gonna go. Just like about like that, about like so. Comme ça. So, I almost forgot something too, but we'll take care of that in a moment. I just need to get rid of all this extra garbage, all this rigid body crap and all that. We don't need that. So, I'm going to reset this now. Collapse. Go. Save. Now what I need to do is turn off hardware shading for starters. So it doesn't look all weird like that. What I need to do now is the blood mesh. So, what I'm going to do, I'm debating whether or not, I don't need this whole dang shaft for that purpose. I just need, let me think. Right. Just need, I believe, just up to here. Just up to there. So for that, got that selected, hit detach. Detach as clone, I'm just going to name it blood. There we go. And then I'm just going to detach these two. So I'm going to detach this as a clone. Just name it Ballard, whatever. Doesn't matter, I'm going to be attaching those to the blood layer anyway. I'm going to actually hide this. And then attach. There we go, save. And unhide. Oh, I'm actually going to unhide these. Delete those. Don't want to export those by mistake. Then unhide by name again, box02. Doop. And I'm going to select that and rename this to Deceiver. Save. Alright, now I'm going to reset, select it again. Collapse that. Collapse the blood mesh. Save again. And now that is ready to go. So, I'm going to deselect all that, save again because I'm obsessive like that. Export. Wait, almost forgot. since I applied the base material before to clear out the ambient occlusion map, I'm going to do it again because with at least with the export plugin I used for 2010 here, sometimes it doesn't export things correctly. And also, the other thing too is I need to, the thing with Skyrim, now this is something to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure that's a wooden part. So I'm detaching this stuff because I want to keep these bits separate. Because the thing with Skyrim, since it relies on cube maps for environment mapping, and not like more advanced stuff where just the color can influence the color of the texture can influence the color of the reflection and specularity. And since that has to be controlled on an individual basis. So since I'm thinking like the pommel here, I'm thinking, or at least actually both of these parts are going to be like brassy or kind of gold. Because I mean, Deceiver's supposed to be. Deceiver. I'm thinking it's gonna be kind of fancy looking. There's gonna be some nice engraving and stuff on the handle. I mean, not the handle, the axe head, just to make it needs it because it would look nice. So I'm thinking these parts might be brass. If I end up deciding against that, it's no real problem because I can just change the cube map or whatever. But I mainly want to keep those bits separate. Actually, you know what? I was thinking of making this brass too. So I'm going to detach that as well. And I'm going to attach get that attached to there. Generally try to keep, anything that's going to be the same quote-unquote material, I'll try to keep together. So that way the cube map applies to everything. So, but, all of this is probably just going to have a silver EQ map or something to that effect. All this I mean, not the blood mesh. That's a different story. So, with that in mind, that's all done. I'm going to reset the X1 again, just to avoid any potential problems. And since the handle is wood, it's not really going to have a cube map. You can get it if you don't have a choice, for whatever reason. When you make the texture, I'll get into more detail about that later. But when you make the texture, you can make it so it doesn't receive anything from the environment map. So let's collapse that. Make sure everything's hunky-dory. We don't have any more weird crap hanging around. Any more of that stuff. Okay. Select everything. Once again, apply this material just to avoid it not exporting things right. And export. Switch to NIF. And Deceiver. Save. Skyrim, I always set the weld vertices to, instead of 0.01, is to 0.001. That way it avoids collapsing and welding any vertices that are really close to each other. Because otherwise, if there's any vertices too close to each other and they get welded, then it'll completely muck up the topography of the mesh. So, export that, save, and we're done with 3ds Max now. So we can close out. And now we must move on to shoot. Crap, damn it. No, don't open Edge. Dang it. Go away. Yep, wallpaper, whatever. Modding tools. Now we need to play in NIF scope. Where is NIF scope? Here we go. So the main thing is we want to get the mesh prepped and ready before we do anything regarding textures. I just need to wait until NIF scope opens itself up. There we go. Alright. So let's open this sucker up. And it's not in the quick selection, so see documents, 3ds Max, export, data modified, and Deceiver. There we go. Now it's invisible because Skyrim stuff by default hides things that doesn't have a texture, so we'll just hit that button right up here. That'll show us our axe. And nothing is in any weird sort of shape, so we're good. Now I'm gonna hit Control N to open a new instance of NIF scope. Because what I want to do now, let's go back into data, is I want to open a model. Just use the steel axe as a base. Use the steel war axe. I want to have placeholder textures in place here. So just gotta copy the shader property, move over to here, and let's see. We'll pick a shader property and paste. There we go. And I'm just gonna do that for all these parts, except for the blood mesh. Actually, wait, I'm doing this wrong. Derpty derp, derpty derp. I want to just do it. I was going backwards there. I want to go over and paste this into this model. Because that's the best way to make sure that things are in fair order. At least with the NIF. I mean, this way you know that everything's correct by pasting things into a vanilla mesh. So that's done. I'm going to save as weapons. Oh no, meshes. Ultima, weapons. Save this as Deceiver. There. Alright. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and get rid of... Well, no, not yet. We need to transfer over the texture. So, 4. Now the thing to remember, I just wanted to clear that out, because if I just straight up deleted this, it would take the shader property with it. So now we can just delete that. Okay. So I'm actually going to go over here and reopen the steel war axe. No. Just copy that. So then I can just paste this over to various parts on the mesh. Like so. Shader property. Okie dokie. Now I'm going to get rid of the edge blood layers here. I think, yeah, that everything is completely on point there, so this is just out of position. So now I'm going to do the edge blood. Let's start with this. Here. This is going to be the lighting effect, so I always rename these things for just for general good reference. So I know naming it this, I named it lightning, not lighting. Lighting. It is not lightning. Blood lightning sounds like a very Sith kind of thing, or just someone just generally ill in the head. But anyway, just changing it this way, renaming it as such, tells me immediately, like, okay, this is the lighting effect for the blood. So now I can copy this over, the tri-shape data, or not the tri-shape data, but the extra data. Where is the... Where's that extra data thing? Oh, is this it? No, that's not it. Okay, right here. Number extra data list, 1, refresh, paste that into there. Fortunately, since that stuff's still in there, Z fighting a lot, but I'm hoping that won't be a problem in the game. Well, I guess we'll see. If it does, I can always just kind of like scale it vertically slightly in NIF scope so it doesn't fight like that. So we've got that in there. Now we want to copy the lighting effect in. Lighting shader. Okay, there's no Z fighting in here, it looks like. That's good. Okay, and then the alpha property. Put that in there too. So then we've got the shinies. Now what we want to do is I'm going to save. Then I'm actually going to open it again up in here. No. Because I want to copy the blood lighting mesh, paste it in, and rename it to blood effects. That's the actual blood effect layer. So I'm going to delete those. Come back, reopen the Steel War Axe. There's the effect. Effect shader property, copy that. Come down into here. Paste that into there. That's garish looking. Then blah blah blah. Alpha property. Ow! Crap, dang it. Just realized. Oh. Alright, backtracking. Gotta fix something. Gotta address something here. Mesh. No texture. Edit UV. There we go. So the main thing I want to do here is kind of fiddle the UVs around here for the blood layer. Just so that they kind of at least line up a bit. Oh darn. Okay, well I guess we'll do it this way. Holding Alt, Shift Alt. Just get everything selected so I can move this out of the way. Scoot, scoot, scoot. There we go. Then I'm going to hold Alt for this. Select the axe head with great difficulty. Of course, there's at least one vertex that got out of there. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees.